Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Episode number 15. We're at now, nearly 4 months into the No Punches Pulled podcast. Fear not, Jay's Fight Talk is on his way. But myself and Liam Tully are here to open up proceedings tonight. How are we, Liam? You well?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. As I was just saying to you off camera, recorded my fight night pick show. That's got me revved up for this weekend. It's Matchroom's best cards, probably this year, definitely. We've waited till November, but they finally delivered us a good domestic card, haven't they?
Oh, yeah, really good card, actually. It's a more of a trade card for sure, and we'll wait for Jay to come in before... Oh, here he is, Jay's Fight Talk in the building. How are we, Jay?
Hi, lads. Yeah,
yes,
good.
Mate.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. Yeah, all good. Yeah, we'll get cracking into that card. We've got lots to talk about after that as well. Obviously, the news breaking from Dan Raphael that February 22nd's card potentially could be... for me, one of the best cards that we've actually ever seen. I mean, if that card does come off, that is arguably unmissable. Evening, Luke. I hope you're well, mate. So we'll crack on with Birmingham on Saturday. There isn't any other boxing as far as I'm aware, so we've just got this card to focus on. Then we'll get into February 22nd and any other talking points that we've got for the week. So we've got 4-ish main fights. Big up DJ Pat. Hope you're well as well, my friend. We've got 4-ish main fights. We'll quickly touch on Callum Smith. I don't really want to go too much into the fight. It's good to see him back, Jay, but he's not really up to much this weekend. It's just a little shop window job, I guess, as we call it, and getting back in for a big fight, probably first quarter of next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to get him back into the picture. I think it's more about just putting his name back out there, letting people know that he's, ready, willing, and able to get back in the mix. I think Callum's pedigree and resume justifies him sort of leapfrogging any potential domestic selections for a world title shot. I think Callum trumps any of them based on what he's done in terms of him being a unified super middleweight champion and fairly long reigning. He's mixed with some of the best up at light heavyweight, so I think he's just potentially putting himself in the shop window for either a big domestic fight or possibly, the winner of potentially February's matchup, or maybe an eliminator. I think, he's possibly going for one last shot. Callum is not coming back to box for a British title, is he? Or to box for a WBA
big fight,
continental belt. He's coming to have one last shot, I believe. He's young enough and talented enough, I believe, to certainly beat anybody that's not named Beterbiev or Bivol. But I think even though I picked Bivol to beat Beterbiev, and I still think that he did win that fight, and I would pick him to win the rematch. And I know Callum's fought Beterbiev, and I believe that Bivol is a better fundamental boxer. I think Callum stands a good chance of potentially outboxing Bivol with his range. I don't think he would, but I think he stands a good chance.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen what Beterbiev did to him the first time. I'm not saying it would go like that the second time. He'd obviously box to different tactics. But yeah, I would get excited for a Bivol Callum Smith fight, regardless of what other people say. And that's not with any bias. That's just that, I think it's an interesting matchup or an intriguing matchup.
Definitely. Big up Håkan Johansson, Håkan's Ringside Live. Go subscribe to that for sure for your ringside action to the large plethora of fights he's been to. I believe he's going to be ringside again on Saturday night in Birmingham. So enjoy that, Håkan, my friend. I've just been on Darren Aston's show as well. He's ringside, I think, as well. I think he was saying. So yeah, great stuff. Great show ahead. Liam, quick word on Callum Smith, mate.
Mate, it's good to see him back. I think we touched on it last week. His interview in the dressing room with Andy Scott after he lost to Beterbiev back in January looks like a fighter who was done. Every fighter's upset when they lose, but he looks absolutely heartbroken, didn't he? He looks in pieces. He put a lot into that Beterbiev fight. It being postponed by Beterbiev's injuries twice. He'd, taken a year of his life, if not more, towards it, and he never got going. Beterbiev never allowed him to get going. Like Jay's just said, he's not coming back to fight for an intercontinental tickle my belly button belt. He's not back for any BS. He's here for big fights and big fights only, be that Dimitri Bivol, be that Anthony Yarde, Joshua Buatsi. There are fights there for him, and they are still winnable fights. He's not being brought in to fight any of those names I've just mentioned because he's Callum Smith, the former 168-pound unified champion and #1 in the world as well. He's being brought in because he can win those fights, and there's still life in him. There's more than enough life in him. He's just lost against one of the top 5, depending on where you want to put him, pound-for-pound fighters in the world in Beterbiev. So really glad he's back. Hope it's just a case of a tune-up to get him back out early next year. And look, if he blows him away in the first round, that's not a bad thing because Mundo's known for his hands going as well. So that means he's going to be fresh in the shot window, ready to go February, March time when the call comes.
Yeah, 100%. Big up Darren Aston. Go and subscribe to Sir Chat A Lot of Boxing. I got a great chat with Darren not so long ago. And yeah, we're talking about Callum's opponent, 457th ranked in the world. As Darren's just let us know there. That tells you all you need to know about this 8-rounder. And Darren informed me, I think it's not even on the DAZN broadcast. I believe it's on Before the Bell on YouTube. So,
but I guarantee that the 457th ranked professional boxer in the world would beat the shit out of all 4 of us that are currently talking now. Us
three, without fail, yeah.
So the fact that he's ranked 457th, by whom? The guy has been brought in at short notice. It is what it is, man. You know, he's not expected to box for a title. He's been out for what? Is it a year, 18 months, maybe?
Yeah,
contemplated retirement as well.
Friend.
He's got to be given. Well, he doesn't have to be given anything, but I think it'd be daft to put him in a really sort of 60-40.
He needs to see where he's at. He needs to see where his head's at and his fit.
You know, he might struggle. He might struggle. We don't know what his motivation is. None of us are privy to what's going on with it. You know, I know that he seriously contemplated retirement after that loss. And, you know, that just going back to what you said about him being devastated in his changing room, he never contemplated losing that fight. The Canelo fight was an anomaly. You know, he was now at his preferred weight division. He never contemplated losing that fight. So that was complete, raw, unadulterated emotion that we saw there. And he contemplated, you know, giving up. He's made a lot of money. I'm not privy to his finances, but judging on some of the wins that he's had and the purses that he's had, and he won the Super 6, I'd say that he doesn't need to box for money. So his motivation must be the fact that he wants to win titles, but he also needs to see himself, because it's, you know, I've seen guys that look like world champions in the gym that have done nothing in their pro career. My brother, for example, was one of the best boxers you've ever seen behind closed doors, but just couldn't put it together on fight night for a number of things.
The lights and different.
Yeah, but not just that. There was a lot of things, you know, there's other things going to that, training, mindset, diet, you know, a lot of things, but there's other fighters like that. We don't know what Callum's got left, and it might be more of a test for himself. And I think to put him in with anybody other than either a journeyman or a novice at this point could be catastrophic for not only his confidence but the remainder of his career. So I'm not saying it's great, but I'm not as pissed as what some might be at the fact that this guy's 450.
Yeah, look, my opinion on it, I don't want to spend too much time. It's just an 8-rounder. Hawkins saying he'll be there. I'd be there too, Hawkins, to watch it. But my opinion of it is that Callum is going to chase a Buatsi or a Yard fight. I think that's where they're going with it. I don't know if it'll be 8-rounder into, you know, I know Buatsi's WBO interim, isn't he? I think after the Hutchison fight. But I think that's big money. They're all on DAZN, aren't they? Apart from Buatsi. Oh, no, sorry. Buatsi's with Boxer, but who's Yard with now?
Queensbury.
Boxer as well, if you go off his last fight.
Yards with
he's still Queensbury, I think. I don't know.
He's not with Queensbury. Jesus Christ.
Oh, no. He's had the dispute with him, hasn't he? We don't know who he's with, really, I guess, do we?
I think he's still contractually obligated to Queensbury for one fight. And then they sort of loaned him out, didn't they, to Boxer?
Yeah.
Let him fight for Boxer. So I don't think anybody knows. Probably Yard don't even know at this point.
Last thing I'm going to say on the Callum Smith thing is he was added to this card 9 days ago. Yes, it should be better than the opponent are seeing him in with. But if you're added to a card 9 days ago, it's about getting a bit of money in the bank. It's about getting a run out to see where you're at before you go in against Yards and Buatsi. And it's just about getting anyone who will fight him. Yes, okay, Callum Smith shouldn't be fighting this level of opponent, but we need to see, and he needs to see where he's at before he goes in against better opponents.
Yeah. And last thing from me, but you've also got to bear in mind the kind of money that people are going to be asking on 9 days' notice to come and face him. Do you know what I'm saying? So some of the top guys, maybe top 50s, they'll all want bank. And it's an 8-rounder to shake off some rust. So they've probably gone for the cheapest option.
Anyone will take it, because that's all that matters,
it within
really.
a reasonable. They're not going to want to invest a load of money on an 8-rounder that's shaking off rust. For all we know, he might box on Saturday night, not look particularly well, and think, don't want to do it anymore. So I don't believe the desire could be gone at this point.
Lucas said
Tunde says a lot.
Adamant
you've also got to take a lot of what Tunde says with a pinch of salt. He
has said that as well.
Spencer
to be fair,
told everybody that Mr. Dubois had told them that they'd had a fallout in camp, and so Tunde, lion bars in the fridge and all that. Take what he says with a pinch of salt.
Love it.
Anyway,
right, we're moving on from Callum Smith now. We're going to fly through these a bit quicker because we want to get to the main event of February the 22nd. Kieran Conway against Ryan Kelly, Commonwealth strap on the line. It's actually a decent fight. It's the first of 4 really good fights on the card. Conway was in the Japanese prize fighter. Obviously, we talked about that last week. The plug got pulled on that one. Yeah, Luca, something like that. Yeah, what do you think of the matchup, boys, first of all?
It's a walkover for Conway. I think he'll smash it to pieces.
Right.
Yeah, no disrespect, but I just think Conway, his levels above him, I believe.
Kelly's lost to Pauls, Hamza, and Michael McKinson. That's not bad company to there is defeat. No,
it's not, but they're domestic fighters. Let's be honest. Mackinson has tried at world level and been unsuccessful.
Hamza's a bit.
Hamza is still untested, though. If we're honest, he's had one decent fight, has he not? And I'm not dismissing. Yeah,
no, I agree with that. Yeah,
but Hamza is still potential and unknown. For all we know, Hamza has a world title shot and gets absolutely bashed up. We don't know, do we? He got buzzed in the 5v5, didn't he? And managed to come through that. I think that was a test of sorts, and he came through that with flying colours, but that's the only test he's ever had. So I don't think we can judge that defeat. That defeat may age better, or age worse. We don't know. I think in another 12 to 18 months' time, we'll be in a better position to say just how good Hamza Sheeraz is. I just think Conway's boxed in better circles. He's been a little bit more consistent with his wins. But again, there's not massive names on his career, on his record. And here's me just saying that his level's above. I just think the eye test for me, I just think Conway hits a little bit harder. He's just a little bit better all round in his skill set. I just think he edges it.
I think for me, when Conway was put on this card, he was originally announced he was going to be in an 8-rounder because he'd been promised that he would be if this prize fighter tournament fell off, which it has done, Matchroom would get him out before the end of the year. If this was the opponent for an 8-rounder, no issues at all. My issue lies in you've got Ryan Kelly, whose last fight was a split decision draw, fighting Kieran Conway for a Commonwealth title. That's where the levels in it comes. Ryan Kelly is English level, probably at a push, never mind Commonwealth level. So, and Kieran Conway, when he's fallen short, he's always given a good account of himself. He's fallen short on 2 Canelo undercards against 2 American prospects, and his other defeat was in the Ultimate Boxer thing that
Derek Zazi beat him.
Yeah, that was in that, wasn't it? So, look, Conway for me picks up the Commonwealth strap, and then all roads point towards the winner of Paul's Bentley to bring together the British, European, and Commonwealth after they fight next weekend. So, as a 12-rounder for the Commonwealth title, it's underwhelming, but at least Kieran Conway's fighting. He's the only fighter left in that prize fighter tournament that's got a fight date before the end of this year. So you got to look at it like that as well.
Yeah, him against McKenna would have been a cracking fight. That if anything was lost out of that prize fight tournament, it was that was going to be a cracking fight. But yeah, I'm with you boys. I think Conway wins. I think he wins on points. So in this one, I do. But yeah, we'll move it on now to. We'll go with Cameron Vong next. He was last out in that AJ fight week on that midweek card, wasn't he? Main evented in that one. But I've just said the same thing to Darren not long ago. I'm not convinced on his power. Cameron Vong, he's 6-0, 3 knockouts. Gavin Gwynn is 34 now. He lost to Mark Chamberlain. Didn't look great in his fight before that against the Italian either. He's got a good win over Sean McComb, who most people, well, he did. He got robbed against Arnold Barboza Jr., who beat Ramirez last week on the Billiam Smith card. So, there's some pedigree there, but it's matchmaking where they're just trying to get his scalp for the 22-year-old, I think, in this one, boys.
Yeah, I think if you listen to Sam Jones, then, Vong is the second coming of Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Lennox Lewis, and Mike Tyson.
Combined.
But realistically, he hasn't boxed anyone, really. And he's a volume puncher, so he sort of, he hits hard enough to sort of fluster and maybe, buzz him. And then he goes steaming in, but he's not a one punch knockout merchant. And if he's not careful, if he's overlooked Gavin Gwynn, it could come unstuck. I think Gwynn hits pretty hard. I know he's got a fair few losses on his record, and but for me, this is a decent test. They've brought him in as a name to make Vong look really good.
$1,000,000%.
For me, they've been really, really choosy with his fight. They never pushed for the Flynn fight, did they? Again after it
it just fell off like 7 times.
It just fell off, and they never mentioned it again. And that had a bit of needle. And for me, that fight would have been perfect. 2 prospects, highly touted prospects. Put them in together. I hate it when they keep them. When they say this fight would be better down the line for titles.
Yeah.
Forget titles. Put him in with somebody, on the same sort of path, and let's see who the better man is. But yeah, for me, you can't say you haven't been impressed by him, because he's had some pretty good, performances in terms of what he looks like. But I want to. I know he's only early in his career, but the mouth on him and the smoke that they're blowing up his backside, I think anything other than a destructive win at the weekend, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah,
I'll be disappointed if he don't wipe the floor with Gwynn. But again, he's got to do that, and that's easier said than done, isn't it? Because Gwynn's no mug. He's no pushover. He's not come up here to make the numbers and just take a paycheck. I think he's come here with every intention of upsetting the apple cart.
Yeah, I said I've just recorded my show with Mr. Neutral, and I said to him there, Gavin Gwynn should be coming into this fight week pissed off with a chip on his shoulder, that all it seems to have happened is Team Vong have watched him get obliterated by Mark Chamberlain earlier this year and have gone, we want a piece of that. We're now going to do that. So if I'm Gavin Gwynn, I'm coming in being a bit of an arsehole with a chip on my shoulder saying, who's this young kid in only his 7th fight thinking he can be a former British and European champion? Say what you want about the opposition Gavin beat for those belts, but he's a former British and European champion. Recently as well, we're not talking about 4 or 5 years ago. We're talking about last year he won these belts. So he's got the pedigree, definitely Gavin Gwynn. And look at who he's lost to. I mean, he's lost to Joe Cordina, who we all know the talent of Joe Cordina before everything that's happened in recent times. So he's no mug. And for all the talent Cameron Vong seems to have, for all the trajectory his career seems to be going on, if he is too relaxed, if he is too cocky, if he has decided to get high off his own smoke, so to speak, Gavin Gwynn will make him come unstuck on Saturday night.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if he wins it, then you take the shackles off, the apprenticeship is over, and you let him run in 2025 and you see how far he can get. It's refreshing to see a 6-0 prospect take this opportunity instead of just having 8 rounders against Lithuanian bin men who come over 3 days before the fight and who are there just for the paycheck. You're not going to get that with Gavin Gwynn, but let's hope he's being looked after in a way we know Jamie and Nigel look after their fighters, because the statement being made here potentially on Saturday could have ramifications on a world level potentially for 2025.
I worry about Vong's. He gets hit too often with a lack of power. I think as he moves up the levels, and Luke, I think Luca mentioned it in the comment before. Gwynn could be dangerous for him because he's 34 and he's probably past his best, but the power doesn't leave you, does it? That's
no, and I think if he gets stuck, if he gets trapped, they see that's going to be his problem. He's being able to keep people off him. People. You need that equalizer at world level. If you haven't got the equalizer, then you need to be really special. And we don't know if he is that good. He looks good at the minute, but he's only boxing a certain level of fight. And I think I'm seeing an evolution at the minute with his social media or misfits and whatnot. The YouTube generation. People want it all now. So I don't think the time is. I don't think we can allow people to go 20, 25 30-0 now. I think now it's about getting to sort of between 12 and 16 fights before you've got to fight for decent recognised titles. And I think Sam Jones and them have done a good thing by screaming from the rooftops about him, but now he's in the spotlight. And if he does anything other than, again, has a fantastic performance at the weekend, then we're going to be disappointed because, they're building him up as the next, world champion out of their gym. And, he can do this and he'd walk through Flynn. Well, if that's the case, then he'll walk through Gwyn, won't he? He should absolutely decimate Gwyn in a couple, 2 or 3 rounds if that's the case. I'm intrigued by it because it could be the making or the breaking of him. I might sound like I'm being dramatic, but anything other than a devastating performance and devastating victory for me is I won't say an underachievement, but maybe an underperformance. I think he'd be disappointed in himself if he don't get him out of there fairly comfortably.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. Let's move to Ritson Walker then, because for me, this could probably be the best fight on the card. I worry about Lewis Ritson fighting up the weights. He did his best work at 135. He's at 147 now. Conor Walker looked strong against Crocker. Ritson didn't look great, losing to O'Hara and Paddy Donovan. So at 31, he's got a lot of miles on the clock for a 31-year-old for me, Lewis Ritson. But how do you see the fight going, boys?
For me, Lewis Ritson's best days were at 135. So for a certain group of people watching boxing now are only going to think of Lewis Ritson as being cannon fodder, so to speak. But when Lewis Ritson won that British title, he'd done his 3 defenses inside 8 months, and the furthest one of those fights went was 7 rounds, I think. He was absolutely blitzing and bulldozing people. And look, he was justifiably then pushed towards European level when he came up short, but it was a close fight when he came up short. COVID and the lockdown and the way boxing went came at the wrong time for Lewis Ritson, unfortunately, because he came off that loss in Newcastle. And then he went into COVID. No one's going to give him an opportunity. There wasn't the money there to take him over to America or anything with all the lockdowns as well. So he became stagnated. He's outgrown 135. He tried at 140. O'Hara Davis took his soul away with a body shot. And now he's up at 147. But the issue is in his last 2 fights, he's been competitive against both O'Hara and Paddy Donovan. But now he's up at weight. As the rounds go on, he's struggling with the extra weight of those fighters. After 5-6 rounds, those punches are having more of an effect. The stoppage against Paddy Donovan was more to do with how far the fight had gone, fatigue, like you just said, Jay, and the fact it was at a heavier weight than it has anything to do with Paddy Donovan's power. O'Hara Davis, that was a body shot that would have stopped anyone. Don't get me wrong. But the Paddy Donovan one was more down to Lewis Ritson cannot take an accumulation of punches from someone that's probably close to 160 on the fight night when he's naturally a 135. You would think once he weighs in on Friday, if he gets up much past 152, 153, that's his maximum. He's not going to grow much bigger than that, is he? Conor Walker was going to grow, go up past 160 most likely. We spoke to Billy Nelson, didn't we, Sam, after the Lewis Crocker fight, and he said he didn't realise that Conor Walker had the set of balls on him that he showed in that fight. Conor Walker was there all night long. He was an irritant. He was a nuisance. And it was a flip of a coin for how the judges saw the fight. He wasn't completely outscored. And if we're sitting here and that was Conor Walker that won, not Lewis Crocker, I don't think we'd be complaining too much with how that fight went. So it's a fantastic opportunity for Conor Walker and one he deserves off the back of a domestic fight of the year contender. But Lewis Ritson, look, it's the last roll of the dice because the winner of this goes towards the British title. Lewis knows that. That's why he's taking it. But you were British champion 6-7 years ago now. And every time you try to do anything since, you've fallen short. I just think that's going to happen again on Saturday.
Yeah, I think for me, Lewis Ritson is a front foot fighter, and you saw a massive change in him when he lost. Fighters lose, and but I really think he bought into this invincibility, and he had the home shows, and he was coming out in the Newcastle black and white, and he was selling a lot of tickets, and he was the man. And then he got his ass handed to him, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful manner. He got beat, right? And I think it took a lot from him in terms of his ego, his confidence, and he's never boxed the same since for me. we all enjoy watching Lewis Ritson fight because he goes out there, similar to sort of Joe Laws, and McKenna, just throws caution to the wind. But what we've seen since is a little bit more apprehensive. So he'll still let go, but not so much in the pocket, which is what we always wanted from him. And I think that's to do with him no longer having this air of invincibility. He knows he can be hurt. And he's also fighting at a stone above his natural weight division. So when, as Liam said, when they're hydrated and weighed in 24 hours later, he's probably boxing near a 2 stone outside his weight division. So he's carrying that weight. You run, Sam. If you've got to wear a 50-pound backpack while you're doing your 5Ks, you're not going to hit your PBs, mate. You might finish, but you're going to be absolutely exhausted. I think it takes everything he has just to stay with opponents at 147.
Do you think he'd be a bit lazy in making weight?
Yeah, I think it's easy to go up in after a loss, and you can blame it on boiling yourself down to weight, and But I think 140 would have been the cut-off point for me with Lewis Ritson. He's not tall enough.
Didn't carry up to 140, did it at all from 135?
And he's not tall enough. He's not a big enough frame for me for 147, 154. He's not. He's a 135, 140 guy. But probably 137 and a half would be a perfect weight division. It doesn't exist. So I think 140 for me is comfortable. And every time I see Lewis Ritson box at 147, I fear for him, and I just think we're going to see him lose. And again, I don't mean that being disrespectful, like I'm dismissing what he's previously done. I just don't believe that he's maximising his potential boxing at 147. I think he's sort of wasting the latter part of his career.
Yeah, I think the mental scars from losing that European title fight in Newcastle back in 2018, 2019 are absolutely huge. And I think that's also contributed to the weight loss. The last 2 times he's fought in Newcastle, he's lost a European title, and then he's been stopped on a body shot to O'Hara Davis. There's mental scars there, because why would a Geordie not want to utilise their home crowd? If Lewis Ritson of old would have pushed for this fight to be in Newcastle, I mean, Conor Walker is on neutral ground in Birmingham, but you get my point. He's now knows that
it's a home tie for Walker. To be fair, he's from down the road.
Walker's closer. He's got everything against him, like he did in the Paddy Donovan fight. And it's never nice to see a fighter reach this point of their career. And you always hope they've got one more night, don't you? Just one more night to show us something that we've seen in the past. But up at 147, it's just not there for Lewis. And the only saving grace for me is Conor isn't exactly the biggest puncher. Yes, he hits hard, but he's only got 5 stoppages on his record. So it's, that is something. Cue Lewis getting stopped early, but my point is there is something here that says that if he can negate what power Conor has and roll back the years, Lewis could get the job done. But 147 is just feels too far.
I'm asking a question. Have any of us seen the potential for him to do that in the last 3 or 4 fights? Because I haven't. Again, I'm not throwing shade. I'm just going off what we've seen. Lewis Ritson's decline has been mental. He's declined as quick as he sort of came to the forefront.
I think he'll retire on Saturday night.
Yeah,
I'd as well, mate.
I can't disagree with you on that, buddy. I don't think
we see him again after Saturday. I think
win or lose,
run through him on Saturday night, even though he's not a big puncher.
For him.
Yeah, I just think that there's difference in hunger right now. I don't even think it's that skill related. I think Walker's just hungry and Ritson's not. That's where I'm at with it.
Can't disagree.
Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but that's just me.
I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him, and I've got no dog in this fight. I don't favour either of them over each other. So I'm completely neutral. But I would love nothing better than Lewis Ritson to have the performance of his career and make a real statement. But I'm hard pressed to see that happening.
Lewis Ritson's best recent performance was O'Hara Davis, but after round 4, O'Hara Davis took over the fight. So if you're going off of that, you're going off of 9 minutes of work in a 5-6 year periods. Like you say, mate, his fall off has been huge. And I do come back to the point I made earlier about COVID. Because he had just lost the fight and he was out in the cold, there was nowhere for him to go. when you could only do 5 fights on a card because that's what the restrictions were. Lewis Ritson wasn't on anyone's list to having those 5 fights because there was no upside for anyone. You lose to Lewis Ritson at that point, there was nothing there. So he's had to do the hard yards. He's not a matchroom fighter anymore. He's an away fighter. He was an away fighter against Paddy Donovan. He's the same again, despite his old affiliation with Eddie. He's not trained by, promoted by them anymore. It's sad, but it'll be the end on Saturday. I don't think he gets stopped. I don't think he'll get stopped. But it's just a shame to see someone who gave us some great nights on his way up. We thought was destined to challenge for big honours. He's just gone a long way down. A long way down.
He sure has. Right, boys, let's move on to the main event. This is what we're here for. This is a cracking matchup. There's family rivalry. I just said to Darren a minute ago, I think they'll ramp it up on fight week. It's been quite respectful so far. I've watched the face-to-face sit down with Darren Barker. I think he did it for the Zone. And, they're respectful of each other. The rivalry's more... I think Cal and Charlie have a bit of a rivalry still. I know something going on at the press conference. I know they never ended up fighting and that kind of thing. But I think when both men are cutting weight and there's a bit more edge on things, I'm expecting to see some fire in the press conference this week, maybe a bit of shoving at the weigh-in. I don't know, maybe I'm just over-egging it a little bit, but the actual matchup is brilliant. And one thing people are not talking about or forget is because all the experience in the pros is with Sonny, he's only 28, Galal's 31, but Galal's only in his 9th fight, he's never fought a full 12 rounds, so on and so forth. But all the advantages actually lie to the younger man by 3 years. But a lot of people... probably think that Sonny's the older one because of his experience in the pros. But, Galal's the puncher, Sonny's, more skilled probably. But, should be a great fight on paper.
It should be. I mean, sorry to cut you. I mean, Edward Yafai's been in the making for 10 years, hasn't it? We always thought we were going to get Cal and Charlie, and for whatever reasons, their careers went off and on different trajectories. And here we are. Sonny is the old guard, even though he's younger, but he's the former world champion. He's only 2 fights removed from a world title unification fight in the States, and he still bears the scars to this day. He's got a horrendous scar down the front of his face after the BAM fight, but we've got an Olympic gold medalist, and I think they've got something mental like 15 national titles between them, or they've got some crazy number, and I know how hard that is to win. My younger brother, I think he won a junior, lost a junior, won a senior. It's hard to win. ABAs is hard to win once, let alone multiple schoolboys and national finals. It's the ultimate domestic chess match for me. We've got 2 of the slickest boxers, if not one of, in the division in terms of Sonny. Mr. Yafai is not far behind. I think he hits a little bit harder than Sonny. But, I mean, other than BAM, no one's ever really got Sonny in trouble. I think Marcel Braithwaite knocked him down, didn't he, in that British title defence. But, even though Sonny don't hit hard, he's not scared of taking a dig. He's got a chin on him.
He's tough, Sonny. He's really tough.
He can actually scrap, and he proved that against BAM. It were his legs that just won't let him continue. His head he'd have continued all night, but his legs just gave way. Just couldn't take any more shots to the temple. I'm not sure if it's going to be too much too soon for Galal Yafai. He's not been in any kind of... The pressure's on him. He's at home.
Yeah.
It's his home show. It's his biggest... It's his world title fight, really. It's as good as... If he beats Sonny Edwards, who is not on the slide... a lot of people think because he's taking a domestic fight, he's on the slide. It's one of the biggest fights out there.
Yeah,
Sonny's wanted a domestic fight. There's been no one to challenge him, really, domestically, up until now. In terms of world level. It's a world level fight. This does wonders for both of them in terms of getting back in the mix for a world title. Sonny's only 1 fight away from, fighting for a world title again. I'm intrigued by it. I think we'll know the pattern of the fight within 6 or 7 minutes. I think they'll take a round or so to figure each other's timing out, but they know each other, don't they? They've sparred countless rounds, I believe. They know each other inside out from amateurs and pros. I think it's going to be a real cagey affair, but I'm excited by it, and I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, it's a fantastic fight. Let's talk about Sonny Edwards for a minute. If Sonny Edwards was a welterweight, a middleweight, a cruiserweight, etc., with the boxing skill set that he has, the beautiful ability to hit and not get hit, the sweet science, he would be everyone's favorite British boxer.
Not even that, Liam. If he was a Mexican, if he had a different surname, if it was Sonny L. Edwards, then he'd be hailed as the second coming of Julio Cesar Chavez.
The fact he's from Surrey in England goes against him. That performance against Bam Rodriguez, I firmly believe, against any other flyweight or super flyweight in the world, he wins that night. But Bam Rodriguez is just absolutely special.
Yeah.
The WBC interim belt's on the line. We know what the WBC are like. They want to throw their 3% onto anything. That this fight doesn't need an interim world title. They're both highly ranked. It doesn't need anything else added onto it other than what it actually is. Sonny Edwards has the ability to make Galal Yafai look very stupid on Saturday night. And by that, I mean he is able to get in, get his shots off, and get out so quickly. If Galal is coming forward looking for his power punching game, which we know he possesses, Sonny will already be gone. Sonny will be on the other side of the ring, smiling at him before the shots are even off. So Galal has to make adaptations from what we've seen. Yes, he's a gold medalist at the Olympics, but he didn't have the most traditional Olympic-friendly style, if that makes sense. He had a very professional style when he was still an amateur, if that makes sense to you boys. So Sonny, we know, is world level. Galal believes he's world level. And look, to take on Sonny Edwards in your 9th professional fight deserves huge kudos.
Credit to him, definitely.
Credit to him for doing it. But I do think, Jay touched on it himself, I do think this is a fight 2 or 3 fights too early. To come into this as your first 12-rounder, you're not just jumping a little level. You're jumping, for me, 2 or 3 levels to someone that is world level, fringe elite level in Sonny Edwards. The leveler for me in this fight is Sonny leaving Grant Smith and moving over to Chris Williams.
Correct.
Now we know Chris Williams has worked with him before. He's never run the corner, but Chris Williams has been with him before. And before anyone goes, how late did this happen? We found out 3 weeks ago. I've heard that this happened at the back end of the summer. So they've definitely had enough time to do a full training camp together.
Yeah.
But how is that relationship gelled? Sonny, you really need to get in his face and give him his instructions because he's a cocky son of a bitch. And he said himself that he believes he could train himself for fights. So if he doesn't have full respect for Chris Williams, like we know he's going to be in the Yafai corner with Max McCracken and what he's been able to do with him, and Rob, I'm sure, is involved as well. It hasn't been a full Olympic cycle yet, so we can't see Rob professionally in a corner. It's like an Anthony Joshua situation. If Sonny isn't switched on with Chris Williams, doesn't respect him, and he's off his game slightly, McCracken and Yafai will be able to come up with a game plan to make it a more interesting fight than it has the potential to be. I'm really excited we're getting to see this fight, but my biggest fear is it's too early for Yafai. Sonny Edwards is going to run rings around him and probably win it 9 rounds to 3, 10 rounds to 2 on points. And that won't reflect the fight and the effort put in from Yafai, but there's levels to this game. And Sonny Edwards, as a professional, is 2 or 3 levels above Galal Yafai for me.
Yeah, could just come down to experience. Pat thinks Sonny could stop him. It's not something that too many people are saying. Sonny doesn't hit that hard, but I agree with the boxing lesson part of it, though, Pat, to be fair. Sonny's given many people boxing lessons before. Galal is the best way I can describe it, I guess, probably the amateur game's different to the pro game, isn't it? And Sonny's so much more accustomed. He's found his feet more. Galal just hasn't had the experience, but it doesn't mean to say that he can't. But I don't believe he has the power, and I know he can hit, but I don't know if he has the Sonny went toe to toe with Bam for 6 or 7 rounds.
Yeah.
Wrong tactics, but
that's the thing of what people don't realize about Sonny, and I'm going to be as disrespectful to Galal as I can, but Galal's still breaking away from the amateur style, so he goes out there and tries to win on points. He will try hurt people, but he still holds back and sort of tip-taps and goes for points. Sonny doesn't hit concussively hard, but it's hard enough. but can also get away with having a mix of the amateur style. So he's got the fast, frenetic footwork, but he creates subtle movements that create weird angles for him that only he can get in and out of. And I think Galal's a little bit more rigid in his approach, a little bit more basic. And when I say basic, I don't mean that he is basic, but what I'm saying is he's a more stereotypical Olympic pedigree boxer. Comes forward in pretty much straight lines, does keep his head off the centre. Whereas Sonny, if you did like they do the football maps, and it'll show Salah's movement throughout a game, he'll do it, and it'll show like a thing. Galal's will be forward, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards. Sonny's will be like, when snails have been in your garden and you see the trails all over your garden. That's what Sonny's is like. He's here, there, he's everywhere. He's whooping underneath. He's a bit like Jaron Ennis in his movement. He does a lot of pivots so that he's side on and then he'll clunk him and he'll spin back the other way. Galal's a little bit more, and when I say use the word basic, I don't mean it. I can't think of the word, but I don't mean that he's a basic boxer.
I know what you mean.
He does the fundamentals really well.
One-dimensional is probably a better way, isn't it?
A little bit without dissing him. You know what I mean, though, don't you? He does the fundamentals really good, but he doesn't. Sonny does it outside of the box. You can't really plan for that. You can be as fit as you want. You can be as regimented as you want. You can hit weight, bang on, the best camp you've ever had. You can't prep for someone like Sonny Edwards. And you can't spar. No. You can't spar. There's no sparring that puts you in good stead for Sonny. You'll get fit. You'll do your runs. You'll do your bar bag. You'll do your interval running, your cryogenics, your oxygen chambers. But when you get in there, Sonny's not in front of you. He's behind you. He's at side of you. He's in front of you again. I think he'll struggle. He will struggle. For the first couple of rounds, he'll be fine. And then Sonny will get a read on him. And I think Sonny will either...
It's one of them. Jay's 7 rounds will fly by and he's 6-1 down. And before you know it, he's running around for trying to take Sonny's...
I think Sonny will get him to chase him and have him walking onto stuff.
That's it. That's exactly how I read it as well. Big up Wayne Herman, by the way. Hope you're well, my friend.
The other way to look at this as well is Sonny beat Galal in the amateurs. The quarterfinals of the ABA, Sonny beat Galal. So we go on about Galal was an Olympic gold medalist. He had the pedigree. Yes, he was an Olympic gold medalist, but Sonny Edwards still beat him as an amateur when it was both their 7th amateur fights. So they both had very comparable records at that point.
Yeah.
And Sonny beat him on points then. So look, Sonny Edwards doesn't need any confidence. Sonny Edwards looks in the mirror in the morning, growls at himself and says he's a sexy beast. He doesn't need to go back 6 or 7 years to get the confidence.
Nah, let's not. Whoa. Sonny never says that to himself. Sonny can't lie. Sonny tells the truth. Sonny's not a liar. Sonny knows.
Hey, if he's wearing that fur coat, mate, he's going to say it to himself.
I'm only joking.
Long number, but look, he has all the skills in his arsenal. He's mixed it at a better level. Let's just hope the split with Grant Smith, which we know is acrimonious, which we know more is going to come out of. Let's just hope that he hasn't left himself in that gym, if that makes sense. The showtime with Sonny Edwards has gone to Liverpool with Chris Williams and is still going to come out on Saturday. Let's hope what's made him the fighter he is hasn't stayed in the still city of Sheffield and he can still deliver.
No, I agree. Can I just move on? I just want to insert somebody into this because I think we can have a no punches pulled talking about the matchup at the weekend without talking about the fight that took place last night in a small African sports centre.
Mr. Prince.
He won. He is now, I think, the IBF Pan Intercontinental Biscuit Tin pot noodle African champion. And I think he's willing to defend.
It wasn't even on BoxRec yet. I saw it this morning.
I've just had a look.
It's still not updated
before it's on BoxRec.
So we're taking his word for it. We're taking the Prince's word for it.
We have to, but he boxed a 74-year-old African that was 50-5. And he's willing to put his title up on the line for the winner. We could see a unification fight for all the African titles.
Did you? So someone on X went to him and said, "You posted this photo, champ, but I've just looked on BoxRec and it's not even there." And his reply was, do you think I just paid all these black men to stand there looking like officials for a photo? Someone's gone underneath. Yes.
Yeah.
Someone's actually gone underneath.
But to be fair, though,
yes.
let's be real. Sonny would be eligible to fight for those titles because Sonny's black.
Yeah.
So Sonny would qualify to box for an African title. So Sonny, if you want a big fight, mate, the princess is ready for you.
I mean, he's got. Look at the crown he's got on his head in his photo after the fight. Look at that with his belts on. He's got a crown on his head, and it's just
the prince. It's coming for all the gold.
Prince Patel got kicked out. Prince Patel got kicked out of York Hall on the Thomas Assomba Charlie Edwards night. He tried to get. It was just below me. He tried to get close to Sonny. He tripped over the advertising hoarding, which was there, and then decided to throw hands at two massive security guards as they're.
I think he got a slap outside as well, apparently.
Kicking and screaming as they're trying to drag him out. So stick in your small village halls out over in Asia, mate, because you come to York Hall to talk to a fighter and you fail. Look, in all seriousness, there is probably a world where Sonny Edwards and Prince Patel happens because there's a way.
Possibly. I mean,
there's probably is a way for it to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see Prince Patel get that kind of fight just because I think he's an absolute moron and doesn't deserve it. He's so disrespectful to, he's been disrespectful to Coogan and Barry Jones and Bunsey. He's just disrespectful.
Yeah, like Liam said, anyone that he talks to.
Yeah, and I get it. It's a shtick. We've all got a shtick, but he's took it to the nth degree and just is painful. So, yeah, stick to boxing in African, orphanage changing rooms or wherever you're frequenting, you weirdo. And leave the boxing to the real boxers.
Remember, Prince Patel got his British license taken away from him because of his behaviour. That's how he ended up back out in these sorts of venues, like we said.
He was fighting in Hungary for ages. He was, but yeah,
there's an argument that he can't even get a British license because of his behaviour.
Let's move on. Sorry, boys.
No, mate, I was going to bring it up to ask your opinion on one of your favourite fighters if you didn't. So
right, fight me. Won't fight me. Jake Paul will put us on Misfits. I'll fight you, Mush. I could make, let's be real now, I could probably make 160 at a push. 168. I could make 168. I could make 160. Prince Patel reckons he's a tough guy. I'm 50 nearly.
He's fighting at 147 now, the Prince.
I'll have to chop one of my legs off to make 147. I could make 168.
But you still run rings around him.
Right, February the 22nd. This is the proposed card as reported by Dan Raphael. Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker. Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol 2. Jaron Ennis versus Virgil Ortiz, allegedly at 147, which surprised me a little bit. Hamza Shiraz versus Carlos Adames, and Zhilei Zhang versus Ajit Kabiel. Rumors of Shakur Stevenson versus Kid Austin, Floyd Schofield being on the card as well. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are one of those fights possibly is close to happening. The rest of them are dream matchups. I don't believe. I believe it when I see it. It'd be fantastic. It'd be wonderful, but not one of them fights is signed. I don't believe.
It's an interesting position. Beterbiev came up. So go with Beterbiev Bivol first. Beterbiev said he would need it till the summer because he had time with family. Didn't want to do a training camp until the new year. Now all of a sudden he's going February 22nd.
After only just tweeting yesterday that should we do a rematch?
Yeah,
Beterbiev's weird.
Yeah, Beterbiev's track records of quick turnarounds even when he was. Yeah, Beterbiev's track record of quick turnarounds even when he was 4-5-0 were non-existent. So he's not going to do it for this. As far as I'm aware from having a look before we came on, Joe Parker is still the WBO interim world champion. Look, I know that's easy to get rid of, but he needs to get rid of that and be put into the
think Dubois Parker's nailed on.
Yeah, I think that is. And don't forget, we've got Manuel Char and Kubrat Pulev boxing for the WBA heavyweight title on the 7th.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God we got Magnificent 7. That's all I'm saying to that. At least we got some. If the card comes off, it's fecking amazing. The fact that you say you're surprised Boots and Ortiz is at 147. There's one reason that fight's at
The
147.
World Championship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Virgil's got nothing to offer up at 154 to get Boots to come up yet. So I'm going to bring Virgil back down to a weight that he ended up in a lot of trouble trying to make not too long ago. So that is what that's about.
Yeah.
It's a great fight card, but I'll be a bit more optimistic than Jay. I think 3 of those fights will come off.
Oh, Luca. Yeah. I want to ask about Bacoli because Kabiel and Zhang being rumoured then. And so what does that mean for Martin Bacoli?
Frozen out.
He's out in the cold, isn't he? He may have to make a defence of that North American Boxing Association title. And it sounds like I'm taking the piss, but he's seriously, at his age as well, he's had too much of his stop-start career. He can't afford to now sit on the shelf for another year. Boxing moves on quickly. Fickle people forget what boxers done for them last week. Never mind what someone done in August by the time we get to next October, November, potentially seeing Bacoli. He needs to have a fight. Yes, it should be a final eliminator. Yes, it should be all these things. But at this point, keeping his name in the frame, keeping him relevant, allowing him to have another knockout, allowing the heavyweight who beats them all to be seen delivering a viral moment should be the aim now from a marketability in his career point of view. Letting him sit on the shelf or up in Scotland training with Billy, whilst fantastic for them, isn't going to do anything for him with the public, is it? So he's the biggest loser. There's not a lot of losers from Riyadh season, but Martin Bacoli, even though he stopped Jared Anderson, could end up being the biggest loser because he is, like Jay said, he's frozen out now. There's no path at all that gets him in with a good heavyweight because everyone is going in other directions.
For me, I don't like it. I mean, what more can Martin Bacoli do? There's not much more he can do, right? He's of an age, and it feels to me like they're waiting him out until they have to fight him. And at this point, he's done everything he needs to do. What's going to happen with Martin Bacoli? He's going to do what he did last time. He'll take a fight and he'll lose against someone he shouldn't really lose to. 9 times out of 10, he beats the shit out of Michael Hunter. But he didn't, did he? Took the fight and lost. And they're freezing him out because he's the bogeyman and he probably beats 90% of them all. I think he beats Dubois today. I think he beats Joshua. I think he beats Caballé. I think he beats them all, to be honest. Zhang is probably the one for me that I worry about, just on pure size. Someone like Zhang and Fury. I think size would be what would Bacoli would struggle with. You know, trying to get beyond the range when they hit hard, and I think Zhang hits really hard, don't he? But yeah, I'm pissed off that he's not on this card for me. It should have been him versus Caballé or him versus.
Yeah, I can't believe they haven't been able to get that done. We'll fight Frank Sanchez, another highly ranked IBF guy. Lucas says, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
He'll do that to get the fight, but let's be really honest. Frank Sanchez is in terms of stature, is an even slower, even more cumbersome, even more open version of Jared Anderson. Yeah. Look at what Caballé done to him. And if someone of Caballé's size can stop Frank Sanchez, Bacoli, look, if Billy Nelson was here, Bacoli is saying he'd sledgehammer him inside 3 minutes. There is a potential for that because Frank Sanchez does not move. He either sits himself against the ropes and throws punches, or he stands in the middle of the ring and throws punches. The geezer only walks to the ring, to the centre of the ring, to his corner. That's all he does. He's got
a bit like Ortiz.
Horrible match.
Yeah.
He don't cover much ground in his fights, does he?
You put a GPS monitor on him, the thing wouldn't even turn on. That's a little
the only time he moves is back to his corner and back.
It is a shame. Like that is, Luke is probably right because that's the only way to get him still in the shop window of the governing body is probably fighting Frank Sanchez. But Frank Sanchez has lost his last fight, arguably lost the 2 before that. I'm pretty sure one of them was a split decision win for him. So what does it do? And Billy says he doesn't place any credence on rankings. So if he doesn't place any credence on rankings, then he's not going to put Martin in with Frank Sanchez, is he?
No, I think that I'm going to play sort of devil's advocate here. So one of the downsides of Uncle Turkey and the Riyadh Saudi money is the benefit is we get all these dream fights because the money's no object. So they throw the money at them and we get these dream fights. The problem it is creating is we're now looking and glossing over mandatory challengers, people that have climbed the rankings and deserve fights on merit. If they're not a sexy name, then they're getting bypassed and they're making the fights that create the most value in terms of eyes on the prize sort of thing. So yeah, it's great that they can get these big paydays for, you know, some of the fighters like, you know, the Camerons of the Liam Camerons, guys where it's changed their life. But on the flip side of that, there's people like Martin Bucoli who's done it the hard way. Let's be real, he's moved from a country in the continent of Africa to the back end arse of Scotland. He's fought nobodies. He's fought on small hall shows. He's built his way up. He's got momentum behind him. And what does he do? Gets hit with a brick wall. It's not fair. It's not fair. So Turkey should be making the fights that are right as well as the ones that we want to see.
I think that's a great point, Jay.
There's fighting each other there that should be fighting Bucoli.
Yeah.
Each other.
I'm actually going to ask to speak to Billy in the next week or so, because you made a good point there, Jay. It's like, how have we got to this scenario where, because from what we saw or what we're fed, I mean, we're not on the inside, so we don't know, but Bucoli versus Kabiel was an IBF final eliminate or whatever it was. Kabiel seemed to be the one that pulled out. Then it was meant to be Bucoli against Zhang. So how all of a sudden have we got Kabiel versus Zhang? Like, what's happened there? Because like on the outside looking in, it was Kabiel that pulled out the Bucoli fight. Then it looks to be that Zhang pulled out. So like, how have we got Kabiel Zhang? And I know that we don't have the answers, but
I actually want to take Jay's point a bit further and say that everything Turkey is doing in boxing, there's one division more than any other that bloke monopolizes more than anything, and it's heavyweights. You want something sexy to happen in the heavyweight division, you go through Turkey. Otherwise, you end up Kubrat Pulev and Manuel Charr fighting in the arse end of Germany for a regular world title. Like, that's the drop-off. We're laughing, but that is the drop-off. You're going from what you're seeing in Saudi to that next weekend, that two people when his dog's
making the gap bigger. He's making it like, sorry to interject, but he's making it like the UFC model. So the UFC model is the cream of the crop get the big bucks and everybody else gets 10 and 10. And the gap's massive, so you've got to get to top 5.
So if you're not in, then yeah.
If you're not in the club, then you're not in the club. And in terms of heavyweights, he's got his favourites. He ring fences them. They all get the slice of the cake, and everybody else gets a piece of dry toast. Do you know what I mean? And Martin McCauley's been slapped in face, as far as I'm concerned.
It's
After
becoming
what he did to Anderson, he should have been one of those fights there. Dubois, Zhang, Parker, Kabayel, any of those should have been facing him, and he's not on that card, which for me, if he's not injured, is a travesty for me.
The gap at heavyweight is becoming more like a chasm. Some of the other weight divisions, we're still getting good fights happening without Saudi, but at heavyweight, like you say, if you're not one of the big boys, you're NFI, you're not flipping invited. You're not getting anywhere near it. And Bucoli is that big monster trying to climb over to get in that's getting slapped and battered away. The heavyweight division is soon going to become about 6 or 8 fighters on rotation. And if Turkey can find a way to keep Bucoli on the outside through every rotation, he will. Because let's be honest, as much as we love Martin Bucoli, he's not sexy. He's not a big name. He's not drawing in the most revenue and money, is he?
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
He's not sexy enough. He's not sexy enough in terms of the brand. The brand's not sexy enough, unfortunately. And it's a shame, really. But it goes back to the crossover fights. Boxing's evolving, and it's becoming more now about the glitz, the glamour, and the production. Previously, they'd make the fights, and the fight nights were the fight nights. The fights were the fights. But now it's more about the show and the pomp and ceremony, and Neymar's at ringside and Eminem's walking him in. And it's, boxing's always been a show, and it's always been about entertainment. But I'll take you back, Eubank Ben 2 at Old Trafford, right? They just put a boxing ring in the centre of the ring, put a load of sponsored by Daily Star, whoever it was. People bought tickets and packed it out. They didn't have rappers. They didn't have the gloves are off. They didn't have any of that. They barely had any interviews in the lead up. Now, I know it was a different time, and I'm showing my age. But what I'm saying is half of the world stopped to watch that fight, right? You make the fights, people will watch them. So for me, they need to stop concentrating so much on giving us everything that the casual wants and make the fights that are supposed to be made. And I thought that that's what Turkey were going to do, but I'm slowly seeing now that he's making the fights that he wants to see, but also what he feels do well on pay-per-views. And I know it's a business, but for them, it's not about return on investment for them, because if it is, then they should stop tomorrow.
About attracting more eyeballs to Saudi Arabia, and Martin Bakole is not going to attract as many eyeballs as some other fighters.
But what more can he do? There's not much more he can do, is there? There's not much more he can do. He might as well come out tomorrow, make a video and go, do you know what, Turkey, you're a prick. I'm going to put a fucking hole in your face when I see you knobhead. Because then he'd listen, he'd be like, what? What have I done? Do you know what I'm saying? He might as well go full heel now, you know, and bait them into making the fights, because playing the nice guy and knocking over people that he wasn't expected to isn't getting him anywhere. It's not getting him anywhere.
The issue that comes with Riyadh season as well is Riyadh season is about entertainment. It's about the music concerts in fight week. It's about the performances on fight night. Think every single Riyadh season event, they're promoting wrestling, golf, mixed martial arts, tennis, something else. Boxing just forms part of this Riyadh season thing. So where we could have an extra fight on the fight cards, and that's where Martin Bakole gets his opportunity, you're losing a fight, so you can have some geezer suspended from a box being held onto by a flipping piece of rope so he doesn't fall down, singing crap for 45 minutes at 11:30 before a fight happens. It's more an entertainment business than ever for Saudi, because yes, they got all the money in the world, but they're not just doing it for boxing. They want you to stay and watch the tennis that's happening 3 days later. They want you to stay for the Usher concert that's going on the next night. It is, boxing just forms a tiny cog on what they're doing, and that's why they only want the biggest names. So Martin Bakole could, unless he knocked out Alexander Usyk or Tyson Fury, that's the only way he jumps into this position, because he's not enough to bring them in. He doesn't have the commercial value that a Francis Ngannou, an Anthony Joshua, a Terence Crawford, etc., have, and that's not going to change overnight. You're not suddenly going to make Martin Bakole the face of Lynx and Cadbury's chocolate and Lucozade and all of that. That's just not going to happen. He's not that guy. And that's not what boxing should be about, because on his boxing talent and ability, I want to watch Martin Bakole fight every single week. I'd watch him in my back garden if I flipping had to see him fight, because he has something I want to see. But from an entertainment purpose, he's so low down. They'd rather put on Missy Elliott or something like that.
Yeah, look, put it this way: his fight against Jared Anderson was way down the card on the
second fight of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was light outside in the arena that they fought in. Put it that way. Yeah, I agree with DJ Pat. He is the boogeyman, and it remains to be seen how long you can avoid him for. That's for sure. Moving on from Bakole just for a minute, we'll stay on the card. Shakur Stevenson, obviously William Zepeda's has come out. He's now got an injury after the Tevin Farmer fight the other week. So now he's the one out injured of the Shakur fight. It seems to be a little bit cursed, but literally as we're on here, there seems to be that the deal seems to be done for Floyd Schofield now. I believe he's a Golden Boy fighter. To be fighting Shakur Stevenson. I watched his last fight. It was only a couple of weeks ago. It was definitely this month anyway. I remember watching it on DAZN. What do you think of the matchup, boys?
I don't make a lot of the matchup, but as I said when you told me off camera, I'd rather see Shakur Stevenson fight than it be over 12 months since he's fought by the time you get this to pay to fight. And when he puts in a subpar performance, everyone says, well, look, he hasn't fought for over a year because he's waiting for a fight. I'd rather be watching Shakur Stevenson than not, but it's another opponent like this. And I know you boys know what I mean. It's another opponent that is tailor-made for Shakur Stevenson, that isn't going to ask him any questions. And I could close my eyes and tell you how that fight's going to go now, and it involves booing and people leaving an arena in the 5th or 6th rounds. And that's a shame to say, but that is the reality, I think, with this.
I agree. It's a layup. It's not the fight any of us really wanted to see. It's not a test for me. I mean, I know he's coming off surgery and injury. It's not a fight that gets me gets my juices flowing. Yeah, there's 3 or 4 fights that I'd prefer to see. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by it, if I'm honest.
Just lastly, on February 22nd, before we cover the rest of what I've got wrote down here, Hamza and Carlos Adames seems to be pretty much done now for the WBC. I'm a little bit disappointed it's not Janabek, only because of all the noise that was coming out, to be honest. I think it's a good fight, Adames, and, you know, it's the logical fight for Frank and anyone representing Hamza Shiraz, because the Janabek fight's even bigger if you beat Carlos Adames. So I'm just being selfish probably in my assessment there.
It was never going to be Janabek as soon as he aligned himself with the WBC and picked up their silver belt. I think that was actually on the line for the Liam Williams fight before back in February this year, wasn't he? I think that WBC silver belt was put on the line then. So, look, we'd love to see the Janabek fight. We're going to get the Janabek fight with 2 or 3 world titles on the line, hopefully. But look, it's a shame that they decided to make all the noise about Janabek when it's been so obvious for the entirety of 2024 that the WBC is the route they're going down. Yeah. That's what they've wanted to do. So the Janabek noise, I don't know, was it a smokescreen because they thought Adames wasn't going to take the fight? Were they trying to have something else ready to go, potentially? Because Adames has been very quiet. He's not exactly been screaming for Hamza Shiraz, has he? He probably feels like he's walking to his own death party with the trajectory that Hamza's on. But yeah, it was clever marketing to have something else in the fire, but, you know, hopefully they haven't burnt it too much and it comes back to bite them on the arse when they try and make the Janabek fight. Yeah,
I agree. Luca, he should have moved up before the Mikhailovic fight that he just took, to be honest with you. I think Janabek, he's a big 160. Yeah, he's not going to hang around for ages. I think Hamza will be up at 168 before we know it as well, to be honest. But they'll meet at some point. No doubt Hamza and Janabek will get it on. So let's go to the next few things then, boys. Jaya Pattaya is fighting on January the 8th against Sin Cara. I believe it's his IBF mandatory, from what I've read. It's on a Wednesday night in Australia. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a it's a mandatory, so you can't really do too much about it. But, you know, there has been a bit of pushback, shall we say?
Nobody wants to see it. As, you know, we know about mandatories, and I'm going to contradict myself because I've just said that Turkey's a knob for not putting mandatories and people that have earned fights on. But look, even before the Billum Smith and Ramirez fight the other week, right? Nobody was talking about Jai Opetaya's mandatory defense or his mandatory challenger. None of us. I've never heard this kid spoken about. Nobody said that he's on the horizon. This guy seemingly has come out of nowhere. Now, I'm being flippant about that. Obviously, he hasn't just come out of nowhere. He's earned his shot. But what I'm saying is nobody wants to see the fight. Jai Opetaya, you've got to give him his respect. He's getting it out of the way. But for me, I'd have rather seen him pay him a couple of $100,000, get him to step aside and offer him the winner of the fight we all want to see, which is Ramirez, Jai Opetaya. They could have done that in February, March next year. They could have stuck it on this card. It gives them plenty of time to train for it. So I'm disappointed, you know, but these are the kind of fights where somebody comes from nowhere and flatlines Opetaya and, you know,
it is
next year. So, you know,
you're right.
It's an opportunity for somebody to go out there and shock the world.
Lucas said the press is on, boys, for the Ryan Garcia exhibition. I think, when's that taking place again?
New Year's Eve, isn't it?
New Year's Eve, is it, in Japan? One of them. No doubt I'll watch it. You know, no doubt I'll be doing a watch along for it somewhere.
On this situation, I mean, there has been a pushback, and I can understand the pushback. But I also went to bat in a couple of the comments and said, Opetaya got his ass bitten by the IBF for not taking the Bradis rematch and was stripped of his world title. And he came out and done interviews in that fight week where he then wasn't defending his IBF title. I think it was the Ellis Toro fight on the Day of Reckoning cards this time last year, and said, I will never allow a governing body to strip me for not fighting my mandatories again. When I win this world title back, I will make sure I keep hold of it. So fair play to him, because he said that and now he's honouring it. And the fact he's doing it in January means come June and July, he can take a unification fight.
Yeah, that's it. Look, it kind of helps him keep busy and keep ticking, and if he doesn't means he doesn't have to get stripped, because that's catastrophic for him at this point. With Zerdo's got 2 belts that Jai Bataille's got a great chance of taking. So yeah, looking forward to that one. Yeah, he is banned, Luca, but this is an exhibition, I think. So so he has obviously found a loophole for that, hasn't he?
Opetaia getting, like you say, Opetaia getting stripped at this point is catastrophic for him. And like we said, he's had it done to him once. He's not going to allow it to happen to him again. Yes, does he want to be fighting in Brisbane at a dinner event where there's the menu? If you look at the fight poster, you've got the food menu for the dinner that's going around the fight. Does he want to be doing a fight like this? No, but he's that proud of being a world champion. He's willing to do it so he can get to the bigger fights. And there's too many fights to do it.
I think he sees it more as sort of an easy payday. I think we know now that Jai Opetaia is the man at cruiser, and I think even if he did get stripped, you could still make the big fights because we all know who the man is at cruiser. I get that the belt adds credence to the fights, but if he did get stripped, I'd still want to see him fight Zerdo. For all the marbles.
Oh, mate, you would still want to see that fight, and it would be like what we said about Dubois. We all know who the real champion is in the division, but Opetaia said, I want to do what Usyk's done. I want to win the 4 belts, and then I want to move up to heavyweight. So for him, it's about keeping all the pieces in place.
Yeah, it's a legacy into his belts.
Get it done on a Wednesday night in Melbourne in January, and then get out to Saudi or wherever they're going to do this unification fight in the summer, because that's what we all want to see.
Yeah.
And too many fighters would decide they want to be stripped and take not the easier option, but them moan and bitch that they can't be an undisputed champion because of the governing bodies and do this option. So it's refreshing to see that a fighter's willing to do it. That's my 2 pence anyway.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Something I've read over the last couple of days, feels like we're closing in on Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, 2-fight deal at £160. Don't know if either of you have seen this or read about it, or
I've not.
I haven't.
The only thing I've seen in relation to Conor Benn is that he's been lined up for the WBC belt against, what's his name for me?
Barrios.
Against Barrios. There we go. Against Mario Barrios. That's the only thing I've seen.
Well, Shalom was talking about making offers the other week. Eddie Hearn's been talking about it a little bit this week as well. It could be all smoke and mirrors. I think we see Eubank Benn next. I'll be surprised if not.
Ben fights Barrios, and then we get the WBC and IBO unification fight, the fight of dreams. Imagine those 2 belts getting unified.
Well, Mike Coppinger, take it for what you will, but he is an esteemed boxing journalist. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn remain engaged in talks for a big-time UK fight for the first quarter of 2025. Fight could take place at £160, and each boxer set to earn up to 8 figures.
Where's Ben's license? I'd like to see his license first. He ain't got a British boxing board.
Yeah,
they've been engaged in these talks since 2022. They've never really stopped, even around everything that's happened, despite what the fighters would have you believe. It's
smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, it's smoke and mirrors. I think it's more likely that Eubank wears that IBO belt in the nightclubs for another 4 months and then defends it, and Ben fights Barrios in America because he doesn't want to clear his name in the UK, so he's going to have to fight overseas.
And just tell us that he has cleared his name without actually clearing his
exactly.
name.
For whatever reason, Conor Benn doesn't want to go in front of the board and present evidence. So you can fight in America. Saudi's a grey area because obviously, although they've got their own border control, it's run by the British Boxing Border Control. So you've got America there to fight.
There's no way around it now. And Simon Jordan interviewed his dad on his podcast, and he basically put it on him. And his dad started talking about God.
Yeah, I've
watched the clip.
God-fearing people, and God knows the truth, right? Well, if God knows the truth, get God to prove it then.
Yeah,
it's sick, man. Just prove it and shut us all.
Yeah, we need an explanation, but don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much because we've done it to the death. To be fair, but yeah, I just read that, so I thought I'd bring it up. A few more to fire through, boys. It looked like we're going to get Chisora Miller in February. It's now been called off. Apparently, Jarrell Miller's going through a dispute with Dimitri Salita or something. His promoter already.
Short horror. Miller pulling out of the fight.
I didn't like that fight for Chisora. I think Miller would have beat him up, to be honest.
To be fair, one sec, so one of them on that is Salita. Dimitri Salita's on that. Randomly.
What a guy. He fought Amir Khan, didn't he, Dimitri Salita?
Yeah.
Blitzed in a roundup in Newcastle.
Yeah, he did,
some random signatures on it. That's from... I got that off Alexander Houston off. He gave me that T-shirt when he was supposed to fight Fury, and then he was supposed to fight Chisora. No, Fury was supposed to fight Chisora, wasn't he? And he ended up fighting Houston off. There was a lot of random people there.
It's a blessing in disguise. Look, Chisora is still going to headline in Manchester. That press release has come out, it said. So we're still going to see Del Boy. But Del Boy against...
Put Martin in there.
Yeah,
get Martin Bacoli in there. Yes, I agree with that, Pat, by the way.
That's even more dangerous for him, isn't it? I think, look, Chisora should retire. We said, didn't we? One of our very first shows we done as the three of us was after Chisora beat Joyce. And all three of us said, Chisora, fantastic. You beat Joe Joyce. Please retire. We don't want to see you do anymore. When we first heard the Jarrell Miller rumors, I was worried because Miller, despite what you think of him, he's got a lot more left in terms of how hard he can hit. And there's potential he could do a lot of damage to Derek in that fight. So if he's still going to headline, let's hope he headlines against the right level of opponent and it's a fun fight rather than a fight that could have any long-term damage.
Alan Babbage,
just do it against...
Babbage in there.
Just do it against somebody who's at his level, who's not gonna hurt him. Luke and Rambler having a good chat here. Thanks for joining us, Rambler. It was the Italian guy, Gavin Gwynn, fought, and he was definitely losing that fight. It was very close, and he pulled out. Didn't he? It was not his last fight against Chamberlain. The one before that.
Was it your call, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So yeah, Von could wipe him out. To be honest, I think he could be close to being on his way out at 34. To be honest with you, Gwynn, but. Yeah, they probably should have had a rematch, but he probably got big money in Saudi for the Mark Chamberlain fight after that. And he's probably getting paid handsomely for this Vong fight in Birmingham on Saturday night. So, yeah, no chance for the poor fella getting a rematch there, I don't think, unfortunately.
No, he's not getting a rematch.
Yeah, he's 48 now. Jeez, that's crazy.
Are we all, mate? Shut up.
To be fair, look at his record. Never fought outside of Italy, bar that one fight. 47-0 before he fought Gavin Gwynn. That's insane. Love that.
That's an Oscar.
Remember the fight? I don't remember all like his background. Only fought in Italy 46 times, and comes to York Hall against Gavin Gwynn at the ripe old age of 47. Oh, I love boxing.
Being 47.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that. He belongs on Misfits. Right, that's enough of Derek Chisora. Caleb Plant and Edgar Berlanga seem to keep going back and forth. I want to see the fight, boys. Belanga's back in Puerto Rico, though. Belanga's been announced to fight in Puerto Rico, I think I saw in the week.
Jay?
Caleb Plant will punch an all in his head. Caleb Plant's way better than him. But I'm sick of seeing the back and forth now. Just want to see him fight.
That's been going on for ages, that. Like, he bought a website, didn't he, with the domain?
I think they were in the amateurs together as part of Team USA. I'm sure I've seen videos of them in like a dorm somewhere back in the day with a couple of other, maybe the Durrells or someone like that. But I think this stems further back than we're privy to. I just want to see it now. Either see it or shut up about it and move on.
Yeah.
I would favour Plant.
Yeah, look, Caleb Plant should get another shot at a world title. If he can't, he needs a fight, doesn't he? So, look, Caleb Plant can start an argument in an empty room with himself. We love Caleb Plant, but that's the type of personality he is.
Yeah.
So he can make anything a grudge match. He could probably, so look, if we see it, it's bad news for Edgar Berlanga. You come off of getting schooled by Canelo, and then you're going to run into Caleb Plant. He will completely derail your career. If Matchroom and people around Berlanga have got any sense, they don't allow it to happen because Belanga's a good enough fighter to rebuild himself back up. But going straight into Plant and losing, I don't see him coming back from that for me, if that makes
Someone
sense.
needs to fight Lara, don't they? I think Lara's the good fight for someone like that. I think Plant could fight Lara, maybe.
Well, he's not going to be getting the IBF fight, is he? Because of what they've done yesterday. So he needs
Skull
to
and
do something.
Triskin, the one we all want to see. Shocking. Few more to cover. Pat Brown signed with Matchroom. Eddie Hearn won the race. Big promo going on outside of Old Trafford and all the rest of it.
Wasn't aware there was a race going on for Pat Brown's signature, if I'm honest.
Well, that's what we've been peddled anyway.
Yeah. I mean, he's did all right in the. He's an Olympian. He's a decorated amateur, and but I mean, I'm intrigued to see the first couple of years of his career, but
it's a lot of hype. Like when they released that thing on Sunday, the big nights are coming back with the behind shot with Old Trafford in the foreground. It was a lot of hype for, look, let's call it what it was. Pat Brown, for as talented as he is, lost in the first round at the Olympic Games. He didn't medal. If we're you get my point. Like, it's a lot of hype.
That's what I'm saying. I'm as much as most people thought it were going to be Eubank Ben at Old Trafford, but it was a lot of fuss about it. For like you said, a kid that lost in the first round of the Olympics. But who lost in first round at Olympics? I think Katie Taylor lost in a second run at Olympics, didn't she?
In a second time, yeah.
Who else has lost in first round? Frankie Gavin, I believe. But him and Billy Joe got sent home, didn't they? Anthony Fowler lost in first. There's a few. I think Lawrence Okoli lost in first round in the Olympics.
Well. I like Luca's comment. Eddie's acting like he signed Usyk.
I thought, here we go, some big signing, and then no disrespect, but Pat Brown, okay. Scotty Cardell,
what a guy, Scotty Cardell. Yeah, Ritson bombed him out, didn't they? I remember he cleaned him out at 135.
Blackpool's finest Scottishman.
Yeah, the Blackpool Scotsman. Yeah, what an era of boxing that was. What an era.
I've got a photo somewhere of me and Scotty Cardell. I think I asked for his autograph as well.
Look,
he was Eddie's boy at one point. Scotty Cardell was.
Scotty Cardell had a bit of a name,
he did, didn't he?
He did.
British champ.
I think, but look, Eddie said there's going to be some signings coming before the end of the year. So far, we got a co-pro for Cambosis Jr. and we've got Pat Brown. Look, at least Pat Brown's with a British promoter. I'm not saying as Yank wanted him, but you get what I mean. In this day and age, you never know what's going to happen with Olympians after they turn up.
He still hasn't announced Josh Taylor that everybody was.
Yeah, I read that about an hour ago. It's still ongoing.
Yeah. Jesus, just announce it already. Didn't he say 6 signings or 7? 6 or 7, didn't he?
Said 6 or 7 before the end of the year.
Yeah, we've had 2, and I'm underwhelmed by both so far, but he's building us up. Must be.
Rambler said, should bring back Ricky Burns. What's he doing working in Sports Direct?
Don't know. But yeah,
Is he actually working in Sports Direct?
I think he worked there before. I think he's bored.
Yeah, wasn't he doing that until he won his first or second world title or something?
Yeah, he was. I think he worked. It were definitely a sports shop that he worked in. So I don't think that's him being shitty with his money. I think he's just bored. Look at what's his name? Danny Drinkwater works on a building site. He's a multimillionaire. Some people, like to work for a living. Others, like myself, don't, and we have to, but it's what it is.
Yeah, I'm with you. DJ Pat says it should be 3 or 4 more that Matchroom have signed. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. They're after the Mexican Olympian who knocked out Richardson. What's his name?
Yeah, I can't think of it. I know the kid, yeah.
He looked pretty good as well. Luca will tell me because we're talking about the other week in here.
Speaking of Olympians, just while we're talking about Olympians, when are we going to see the twins step up, Luke and Pat McCormack?
Marco Verdi, that's the one, Luca. Good man.
Sick of hearing about how good these two kids are, and then they'll have a fight and we won't see them for another 12 months. I think they're both nearly 30, aren't they now? I think we need to see them two kids.
They're both 30, mate. I'm the first part of next year, you would hope. That's me hoping more than knowing, obviously. Yeah, look, it's the conversation for us to have towards the end of the year, but there's 5 or 6 British fighters actually that you're just waiting to, and it's not coming, and it needs to come. Otherwise, I'm not going to want to watch them. And that's not me. That's not me being a dick. It's just if you keep taking on cannon fodder, or Luke McCormack's last opponent had to leave the ring because he didn't put his groin protector on. That's when I was at your call for the Noakes fight. Like, if you're going to keep fighting that level of opponent, people are going to get bored of you and not care when you eventually make the step up.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's some female signings. DJ Pat said I did hear about that myself, Pat. Most definitely. Conscious Boxing says, good shit, guys. Thank you very much for that. Conscious Boxing, thanks for tuning in. He's got Sonny Schooling doing Unless If I Can Catch Him. Yeah, we're all kind of talking the same on the same hymn sheet as yourself earlier. I think Sonny Edwards wins it wide on points on Saturday night. I just think he's got a little bit too much for Galal now. Just one last one, boys, before I'm going to cover off the rest of the year's schedule. Then we'll wrap it up for tonight. Arnold Barboza and Jack Catterall have been ordered for a final eliminator for Teofimo Lopez's WBO super lightweight belt. Can just correct me if I'm wrong. Did the WBO not scrap the Ramirez fight with Barboza being for a
WBO?
Got moved down to a 10 rounder or something.
Yeah,
because Ramirez refused to pay sanctioning fees.
Yeah,
that's why that was.
Yeah, so like, why is how many times does Jack Catterall have to fight before he gets a world title shot?
Mate, not even that.
11-10.
The WBO have already ordered this final eliminator in the past, and Matchroom and Golden Boy couldn't agree on the terms. So it's not even the first time that Barboza Jr. and Catterall's been ordered as the final eliminator.
Can I just put this out there? I don't believe that Jack Catterall will ever win a world championship, a full recognised world championship. I don't mean that on ability. I just think it's the wrong time, the wrong fights, and I just don't believe, other than maybe an interim or a regular, but I think Jack Catterall is going to be one of those fighters. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong.
I know what you mean.
Got a horrible feeling that Jack Catterall is going to be one of those, or he'll lose when he's not expected to lose, and it just won't happen for him. And I really hope not, because I remember meeting him in the stands in 2013 on an Amir Khan undershot. I think he boxed for something like a regional, but the belt's one of them wide red ones. It's not the English. It was something like that. I can't remember. And I met him then and spoke to him. He's a lovely guy, and I've met him since. And he's a bit like Crawler. He's never changed. You know, nothing's ever changed with him. But I've just got a horrible, horrible feeling that he's going to be a nearly man. Not on ability, by the way. Not on ability.
No, I think
timing's everything, man, isn't it? It's all timing.
Yeah. Jack Catterall, look, just because the Barboza Jr. fight gets made and he wins it, Teofimo deciding to do some crazy fucking super fight will always take precedent over either Catterall or Barboza. That's just the reality, because the governing bodies love a maverick, and you can definitely call Teo that. Yeah, it's a shame, mate, because he's got all the talent in the world, and he should have been an undisputed, not just a world champion, he should have been an undisputed world champion. And now we're looking at him potentially retiring without ever being just a world champion. It's a shame. It's sad. That's what it is. It would be a real shame if that does happen.
Yeah, most definitely. Lucas said Eddie doesn't seem that asked to push him. Yeah, I think ultimately he's not a talker. His style's
not a needle mover, as Dana White says.
Yeah, he's not a needle mover. Yeah, his style isn't the most conducive to casual audiences, shall we say? Because that's what promoters care about. Hardcore boxing fans like us and everyone in the comments will watch any fight. You know, they don't need us. They need your Anthony Joshua's and your Tyson Furies and your, Amir Khan's when he was fighting. People like that who captivate the casual audience, or household names. That's who they they need. And to be honest with you, in a couple of years' time, there's not going to be that many of them left in British boxing.
No, and I'd hate Jack to be a nearly man, but I've just got a horrible feeling that unfortunately, even his flipping promoter don't seem to have the utmost confidence in him. And again, I don't mean that on ability. I just mean that on the sort of the wow factor. Jack's always coupled in with other people, and a bit like Macaulay, people don't want to fight him. He's not a big enough name to justify a load of money, but he's a tough enough fight to justify taking a different route.
Yeah,
and I can see him getting frozen out unless Eddie gets the Taylor signing and we get Cattrall Taylor 3, and then we maybe get the TO fight off the back of that. But
for what though?
Cattrall
Taylor 3 for what is my?
Yeah, I don't want to see it, but
it's 1-1. But that's what you're gonna. That's what it will be sold off. It's 1-1.
Oh yeah.
2-0.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Mate, that rematch sold because of the controversy, and it was a shame there wasn't world titles on it. You're not going to sell a third fight without any world titles on it between those two, I don't think.
Yeah.
No, I have to agree. Stupid statement by me, but I'm just trying.
Sorry, mate. I'm just playing devil's advocate because I listened.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that. I want to dig into it. I just meant now I've thought about it. I mean, I don't want to see the fight, but I'm just thinking of big fights for Jack. Is it just going to be big fights and not world title fights? Eddie Hearn doesn't really speak about him much, only off. Yeah. Anyway, I hope he gets what he deserves.
Yeah, for sure. Final topic of the evening, boys. It's just come into my head because I watched something on it earlier about Anthony Joshua, and I just want both of your opinions on it. So I was watching an interview with Eddie Hearn. I can't remember who it was with or what, but he's adamant that his next fight's either against Daniel Dubois or Tyson Fury, but that doesn't bother me. But what bothered me was, and I get it, AJ's commercial value, but it was kind of like, okay, well, if we're going to fight Dubois or Fury. If Fury wins, and this is the thing that gets me, because if Fury wins, the interview goes, well, he said he's going to fight Usyk in a trilogy, and then Hearn goes, well, if Fury wins, the demand's just too much there for Joshua versus Fury for the UK audience. But my problem with it is, and I get my problem means nothing because it's all commercial value and it's money. But why should he get a fight with Tyson Fury after being banged out in 5 rounds by Daniel Dubois? Why does he get to fight? Why does he get to fight for 3 world championships if Tyson Fury beats?
He doesn't. This is Eddie Hearn doing what Eddie Hearn does, trying to talk things into reality, right? The public are not clambering for Joshua versus Tyson Fury, and
we were 2 or 3 years ago.
And I'm not looking at this from a boxing purist or boxing nerd standpoint. I judge it by going into the office and listening to the rumblings in the office after the likes of the Dubois performance. They're the kind of people that clamber for those fights. They're the kind of people that will buy the pay-per-views 2 or 3 times a year, not 10 to 15 times like morons like us do. People are clambering for that fight. Since Joshua got his ass handed to him, which I predicted, by the way. I don't know whether you'd heard about that. But it's not there. The hunger's not there for that fight. People will watch it, but that fight is not the fight it was, like you say, Sam, 2 or 3 years ago. I think Eddie Hearn's trying to sell us wolf tickets. That's what I think he's doing. He's selling wolf tickets.
There's no clamber there. It's just we all know what's happening with AJ. He's coming back at the O2 Arena in April or May against whoever. For argument's sake, whoever wins Pulev or Char. Jesus. But anyway, for argument's sake, one of them two. But even if he was to beat Pulev or Char, that doesn't then mean he gets another Dubois fight, he gets another Usyk fight, he gets another Fury fight. I wouldn't even say Parker or Bacoli should be on his radar. Anthony Joshua needs some sort of rebuild, and I actually want to see him be mandated this time around. I want him to have to go through a final eliminator and get mandated to earn another world title fight. Like Pat says here, it's for money, but money for who? Because AJ's not. It's not like AJ's had a shit career and not made anything off the back of it and isn't set for life as he is, because we all know he is because of the sponsorships and 258 and everything else he's got going for him. It is a money grab from Eddie, and it's a desperate plea actually to keep AJ relevant amongst the two big boys. Because AJ Dubois, the fact that Daniel Dubois is now more relevant than Anthony Joshua is a crazy sentence to say. If you think back to this time last year, before the Day of Reckoning cards, if I said that to anyone, someone would say,
you'd have been laughed out of the building.
What are you on? What the hell are you talking about? But that is the reality now, and that hurts Eddie Hearn a lot. Notice nothing's coming from AJ. He's not calling for the Fury fight. He's doing his thing. He's doing his rebuild. He's going to do whatever he does. But Eddie Hearn is that desperate for AJ to be relevant still in this conversation that he's calling it when no one wants it. And if we're really honest, I don't think Eddie Hearn wants him to take it. Because, it makes everyone a shit ton of money. But if Fury absolutely boxes AJ's head off for 12 rounds, then no one's going to pay to watch Anthony Joshua fight anyone. And he'll, that's the reality. So if it if it came from AJ himself, I pay more credence to it. But it's coming from a promoter. He's just trying to keep a name relevant and let money talk. So it has a lot less credence for me.
Yeah, I think AJ should have retired. And I think he should have retired straight off the back of that fight because they've got to be really careful. There's people I see out there now in top 20 that I would have thought AJ will walk through, but I think that I've done a lot of bad shit to his confidence, that defeat. He never expected
he was hammered by Dubois.
He never expected that. He got hurt by the first punch he got caught with.
He did. He got beat up
in the first round. And the referee did him a favour. I think it was the second round.
I agree with everyone in here though as well. Pat and Wayne, we're going to see it. Turkey, or if Turkey wants it,
I don't think we are. I disagree. We won't see AJ Fury. I think the Fury Usyk will go on for another 12 months off the back of Fury beating him at Christmas, and I think by that time AJ will either box Dubois again and get absolutely flatlined again, or he'll box somebody else like Miller or White again, somebody that is expected to beat and will lose. I think AJ's done out here. And that's the only reason Eddie Hearn's touting that fight, because he knows it's risky letting him fight anybody else. He knows deep down. If he thought that was just a bad night, he'd have put him straight back in there with Dubois. But there's a reason why they didn't, because they know it wasn't an off night. He just got beat by somebody better than him on the night.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's Fury or bust, and we'll potentially not see that fight. I don't believe we're going to see the Fury AJ fight ever.
Yeah, Wayne's team Usyk all the way through.
Put money where your mouth is, then, brother. How much you want to bet?
It's going to be a tough night. I'm picking Fury to win the rematch, but Usyk. It's just hard to imagine Usyk losing. Massive end to the year. What? Sorry, mate?
Fury stops Usyk.
Yeah, do you know what? I've said that myself, but again, I said that
Fury
for the first one.
this time.
Massive end to the year. We've got Magnificent Seven next week, Paro versus Hitchens. We've got Manuel Char versus Kubrat Pulev. Huge fights coming on next week. Then you got Monaco on the 14th. You've got the Boxers show, Jonas, on the 14th as well. Then you got the big one, Usyk versus Fury 2, December the 21st. Only just over 3 weeks away now. That's crazy.
Yeah,
and then you got New on. I know it's getting closer. New on Christmas Eve as well. So we've got a stacked end to the year. We're going to be here on Saturday night. We're going to cover a good bit of that Edward Yafai card on the watch alongs. We'll probably do a prediction show a little bit later in the week as well, just to get
we're getting updates as well, because don't forget we've got Hawkhand Ringside Live will be there, so we're hoping to get some ringside content if we can.
Yeah,
some updates, some live updates would be good.
But yeah, as always, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. We've got Wayne Herman, DJ Pat, Rambler, Luca, Conscious Boxing joined us. Get Back Gang was there. Jam's Boxing Chat a little bit earlier. Hawkan, Darren Aston. Massive big up to everyone, as always, for tuning in. Thank you to Jay and Liam at Jay's Fight Talk on X, at Liam_Tully9 on X. Check out Liam's show with Mr. Neutral tomorrow over on STBX. And yeah, I think that's anything to add, boys.
No, thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, exactly what he said. We'll see you all later in the week.
Yeah, big up Pat, big up Wayne. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See you, man.